All right, it's back time for another episode of the Houston High School Huddle. It's our first playoff edition. Matt Stepp's over there. I'm sure he's talked his ear off. If y'all caught his thing on Saturday night, that Dave Campbell's had their little bracket unveiling. I know I caught it. I was with you the whole round. I was waiting through the bracket so I could hear the analysis. I was there for the analysis because I like hearing the analysis, especially the regions I don't mess with too much, which is Region 4 mostly. And the big schools, I don't really see those teams, so I like to hear from you guys who's got what and what's going on. So I can, when 3 starts playing 4, which will happen 3-4 rounds deeper in this thing, I'm going to need to know what's going on. So
that's right. We tried to give it a March Madness kind of feel to it. I hope everyone enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to do.
Right. No, it was great. It was great. We enjoyed it for sure. But here we are, man. This is the playoffs. This is what we all been waiting for. Everybody's looking for, their first goal is to play one more game. Now, for half the state, that's exactly what they're going to get, one more game, and then that's a wrap. Then we slice it in half. But to get to that second game and start building things, this is there's some teams out there, our perennial powers, they've been playing it for 3, 4, 5 games. So the other teams are happy to be there. Now they can use this week to concentrate on making it another game and build on top of that. But before we get into playoffs, I wanted to talk a little bit about last week and see how some of these teams made it into the postseason. Obviously, the first thing I want to talk about is that Hail Mary by Pasadena Dobie.
It's crazy.
You knew about it. We all knew about it. The announcers maybe not have known about it. Didn't sound like they did.
No, I don't think they did. I don't think they were up to speed on the point scenarios that game. Because I know me, if I was broadcasting that game, I'd have been screaming my head off. That was crazy.
Absolutely. You would have had some research done. Heck, if you remember correctly from our podcast, I didn't have my research done because I had it down as 22-6A is set, and you corrected me, said, not necessarily set. Dobie still got to win by 17, 18 points, whatever it is. But for the most part, and we talked about how Klein Collins may be practicing for a week and not being able to play. Well, it turned out to be Dawson being that team. Yeah, Dawson practiced all last week, and now they have to put the pads up.
Heartbroken. I got a text from a Dawson coach this Friday morning, just heartbroken. I get it, man. That's a tough way to go out, man. Like a Hail Mary in a game you're not even playing in knocks you out of the playoffs. It'd be one thing if you gave up the Hail Mary because you could be like, well, we just didn't make a play. Right. There was nothing Dawson could do in that week. Everything they could have done had already been done. So, tough way. Like I tell coaches all the time, and there is no good way to break a 3-way tie. When all the teams beat each other, you're putting your fate in the hands of the tiebreaker gods, and sometimes it goes your way, and sometimes it doesn't. And I'll tell people all the time, the best way to avoid a tiebreaker is to not be in them. Just get
exactly.
And it sucks for Dawson, but what a play for Dobie, and congrats to those guys. Just unbelievable. I mean, now their reward is Ridgepoint, but hey, they're in the dance, and that's all you can.
They're thinking about that now. They didn't think about it then. That's for sure.
They enjoyed it, I'm sure. So good luck to those guys. Tremendous play.
Matter of fact, Coach Fitzmore said that was the greatest play in Dobie football history. It was right after the game, so he obviously didn't do any research of all the games played past, but you can't argue it too much. I mean, it's certainly top 5 if it's not the best.
Absolutely. It's unbelievable. It was a great play. Congrats to those guys, and it's like I said, you're in the dance. That's all you can ask for. It's a 1-game season, and they're going to roll the ball out, and they're going to throw everything they got at Ridgepoint, and we'll see what happens.
Another team that made it in the dance that we just talked about, Klein Collins, because they had to wait it out, because of Klein. They're brothers from the same ISD. They lost, or they found out the night before that they weren't going to make it because Klein Oak won. So, what better way than to play a spoiler? Ran a little Philly special down there on the 2-point conversion, got it, and all of a sudden, all that practice Klein Collins did is for something because now they're playing Cy Woods. That was a wild go.
You got to give Klein a lot of credit here because they didn't have anything to play for.
Yeah.
That their season was they knew that Magnolia was their last game. And credit to those coaches and those kids for sacking up and not mailing it in, because they could have mailed it in. And I don't think anyone would have thought poorly of them. I mean, they showed a lot of heart and a lot of intestinal fortitude to come out and play that game hard and knock off Magnolia. And I bet Coach Coach Mitchell there at Klein Collins is sending a Christmas card to Coach Hallmark at Klein because those guys saved their season. So
he might have showed up there for the pregame speech. He's
I think he might have.
We got a special guest, Adrian Mitchell's here.
I bet there might have been some Klein Collins players and fans in the bleachers that were cheering hard for Klein. And so, like I said, you got to give a lot of credit to Klein for continuing to. And Magnolia was playing for their. Magnolia had everything to play for.
Yes.
Klein had nothing to play for. And Klein comes out with a win. So a lot of credit. You can just give a lot of flowers to Klein for that performance. You know, you don't see that very often in today's day and age.
Absolutely. And there's nothing to shy away from when it comes to – there's nothing like going into the offseason on a win. Having some sort of momentum for those long 7-8 months before you start another season. Hey, we finished this thing on a win. It was a spectacular win. If you saw the highlights, they were all kinds of excited that they pulled it off. They had helmets off. They were going absolutely nuts. And I was there for it, man. That was perfect. That was a perfect way to end that joint. How about that thriller down there in Tidehaven? Man, that was a great game. The highlights came in for us. And, man, you love those 3A schools when they're playing on that natural grass down there in East Bernard. It's just, I don't know. I felt like I could smell it through the screen because there's kind of moist there, too. Yeah. And they were going crazy. There was wild diving catches in the back of the end zone. Again, Tidehaven went for 2 as well. Got it. I don't know what kind of play they ran, but Tidehaven was running in like untouched. The guy wasn't even touched going in there to win that and that's the way you win a district title there too.
Yeah, David Lucio's ball club, kind of forgotten about. They played for a state championship last year, and Joseph Dodds goes to Baylor, and everyone kind of forgets about them. They lose early in the year to Goliad, I believe, and no one's really talking about them. And all they did is they just –
I think it was Ganado, actually.
That was a Ganado, okay.
Yeah,
they come
Ganado
out
got
against East Bernard unbeaten, and they knock off East Bernard to win the district championship. Huge win for those guys. It looked like a great atmosphere. Just really what Friday Night Lights is all about. Small town ball, and it's a lot of fun. And I think both of these teams are now. East Bernard's got a much tougher playoff route now. They're going to have, when we talk about brackets, they're going to be in a tough possible second round matchup, but I think you could see this be the first of 2 meetings between these 2 teams. These are 2 regional contenders in 3AD2 Region 4.
Absolutely, yeah. And when they got beat by Ganado, they got beat pretty badly too. But they certainly bounced back and turned that thing into a district title, and now they're number 1 seed coming out of that one. How about A-Leaf Eltic? I mean, I had counted them out. I mean, they only finished 2-7, but they got in there. Maybe this is more of a telling of what George Ranch had going on, because that was right in George Ranch's hands, and they kind of bailed out down the end of the stretch. But Elsick made it. They did what they had to do.
Yeah, not the prettiest record, but I texted Coach Rodriguez Thursday night after I saw Hastings had beaten George Ranch and was like, so what's the scenario here? And he's like, we win, we're in. And so I said, hey, that's all you can ask for going into Week 11, to control your own destiny. And they took care of business, so congrats to Elsick. Coach Rodriguez is an Elsick grad, very proud alum, and trying to restore that program. They had a decent year last year. They barely missed out on the playoffs last year. I think they went 5-5, 4-6. Struggled a little bit more this year against a tougher schedule, but won the games that counted, and now they get they get rewarded with Katy. Yeah. But when you're trying to build a program, getting into the playoffs is that first big step. And so Elsick has made that step. They get that extra week of practice, and they've got something to build on. They're going to be huge underdogs against Katy. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, they're big underdogs against Katy. But this is how you build a program, and they can use this momentum going into next season for sure.
Yeah, they can. They will definitely celebrate during practice. Hopefully, it gives you words of wisdom Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday about, hey, this is something special that we're in the postseason here. Friday's going to be a tough situation for them, but Monday through Thursday, they can celebrate the fact that they didn't give up despite their record, and they made it to the postseason. They got that 11th game, because there's a lot of teams in Texas that don't have that 11th game.
About 55% of the state's playing basketball now. So
exactly,
you get one more week of practice, and hey, who knows? Elsick's going to come out, and they're going to let it all hang out. They're probably going to throw trick plays at Katy and throw the kitchen sink at them, and they got nothing to lose. So
right. And one of those teams playing basketball is C.E. King, and King would let me know about it too. Early in the season, we had our little deal here. We said, I think I said something to the point where basically the best they can hope for is 5th, but that's still pretty solid in a district like that. They hang on to the receipts. I mean, you got thrown in the mix just because you do this with me, but if they had listened to the podcast the whole year, you were hyping them up from probably week 4 on.
They were a hipster pick, yeah.
Absolutely.
couple of coaches that coach in the school when they get so just to pull the curtain back a little bit, I don't personally make the picks in the magazine. Our the picks in the magazine are generally done by our computer partner in the preseason magazine. And then I make my own picks later on. And even in my own picks, I think I had Kingwood fifth. I had him out of the playoffs. And at coaching school, a couple of their coaches were like, "Hey, we're going to be in the playoffs. You're sleeping on us. Watch out for us." And I said, "All right, I'm gonna keep an eye on it." And sure enough, man, they
did what they had to do.
They played North Shore tough for a half, and they gave Atascocita all they wanted. And I was like, all right, they're for real. And so, you gotta give them nothing but credit. Hey, I think Kingwood's got a very winnable first round playoff game. I don't know if they'll be the favorite, but
right.
they could easily win.
Taking
that
on
game.
Clear Springs.
I think Clear Springs is the favorite, but I think Kingwood's battle tested, and I think they're going to be a team to watch out for. I don't see any reason why. I wouldn't be shocked if I saw Kingwood playing Shadow Creek in the second round of the playoffs. So, congrats to Coach Melton and that ball club. They're going to be a tough. They're a good ball club, and they can play with just about anybody. You play Atascocita at one point, you can play with anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got no beef with them calling me out because I don't have any curtains to pull back. That's exactly what I said, word for word, and they got it. And they saw it. Hey, I've been wrong many times.
You do this long enough, you pick as many districts and games as we do, you're going to get something wrong. And when you get it wrong, I don't take it personal. Like I tell people all the time, if I pick against you, it's not personal. It's just my opinion. And if I'm wrong, I'll be glad to tip my cap. But if I'm right, let me know I'm right too.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's have a two-way street here. So
let's get a hat tipped your way.
If I'm right, let me know about that too. It seems like when I pick someone 6th or 7th and they finish 6th or 7th, no one ever tells me I'm right about that. They just tell me about the times I'm wrong.
Exactly.
Part of the business.
And in my defense, where I was off by 1 point, right? If they didn't beat C King by 1 point, all of a sudden I'm correct because I had him at 5th.
Yeah.
But anyway, it doesn't matter.
It's a results-based business, so congrats to the Mustangs.
Exactly. Let's go. How about Dickinson? They ended up getting that last win over Deer Park to get the easier game against Atascocita, right?
Yeah, quote unquote easier, yeah.
Instead of North Shore.
They get a home game out of the deal. That's the biggest thing. Yeah, it's just a tough bi-district matchup. Dickinson's a good ball club. Like
they are.
They've put up some good numbers. They've had some close losses against some good teams, and I think Dickinson and Atascocita is one of the best games in the state in the first round of the playoffs. I mean, it's unfortunate that one of those teams is going to be home after round 1, but I mean, Atascocita is going to be the favorite, but Dickinson is good enough to beat him. Like that, John Stelson's got a good ball club down there in Galveston County, and I know one thing: Matanza Stadium Friday night will be electric for that game. They'll have a fun atmosphere, and they're going to throw everything they got at Atascocita.
Exactly. When we open up the brackets, I'll give you my thoughts on that as well. And then finally, poor Nederland, man. They start off this thing 7-1. 2 losses later, they're traveling all the way up to Texas High. That's the way high school football goes. You always tell me that's the way it goes. But you pick up 2 losses in a row and get that bus fired up. Get 2-3 movies ready because you're heading up to Texas High.
5 hours one way, buddy. Yeah, it's a long road trip. It's a product of UIL realignment, obviously, and then Nederland, they're up 7 with a minute left, and Montgomery drives right down the field and scores on them. So I mean, Nederland had it. Like it's not
right.
They had Montgomery beat. All they had to do was just stop Montgomery with 1 minute left in the game, and Montgomery drove right down the field and scored. So. It's just one of those things. And then in overtime, Nederland couldn't do anything, and Montgomery went right down and scored. So, you go from 1st to 4th. That's tough. And, Nederland's not only are they traveling 5 hours, but they're playing the number 3 team in the state. Who's 10-0. And I've seen them with my own 2 eyes, and they are really, really good.
That is a heck of a team. But the good news is I saw gas is down to about $2.30-something. So maybe if they keep it at that, they can gas these buses up and make it one
Hopefully
trip.
they get the nice charter buses and don't take yellow dogs up there.
Exactly. That'd be nice. All right, let's get into these brackets, man. You want to get into these brackets?
Let's do it, man.
Let's take a look at some of these deals. We start off here in 6A Division 1, Region 2. Obviously, it's top-heavy with Duncanville. Everybody's worried about Duncanville, but let's concentrate on our 4 teams down here in the bottom. Woodlands against Nimitz, Klein Kane against Cy Ranch. I know you're a big fan of the Klein Kane Cy Ranch, and I hate playing I can't wait for this matchup type game, but I can't wait for the Klein Kane Woodlands matchup. I think that thing will be fantastic. But what's it gonna take for them to get past Cy Ranch?
I think they're gonna have to they can keep the defensive end for Cy Ranch and check the kid who's committed to Oregon State, who had a big game when I saw him in person a couple weeks ago. Cy Ranch has got I think the quarterback is hurt, and I think they've been a little offensively
Yeah,
challenged.
Owen Cassette. Yeah,
Since Cassette got hurt in the Cy Woods game, and they just haven't really been the same. They got blown out by Bridgeland. They just struggled against Langham Creek. They won 17-14, but it was really
right.
the defense that got it done. So I think Klein Kane, jump on Cy Ranch early, make them play from behind, and you'll be fine. I think Klein Kane, the Woodlands in round 2 next week will be a game we talk about if it happens.
Yeah, that'll be a scoreboard operator's nightmare, I think, because the way they're going to be chucking them points up there. But looking at this region or this part of the pod of the bracket, it's going to go through Duncanville. Does either Woodlands or Klein Kane have any kind of offensive power for that team who have so many studs all over the place?
No.
All right, well, that's easy answer.
Just keeping it real here. I don't think anyone. I think Duncanville is the big favorite in Region 2. I mean, they've just dominated not only the Houston teams, but the other teams from Dallas as well. So you got to really squint to see anyone this year in this region playing Duncanville close to my mind.
I was trying to get you to give Houston team some hope, but they just get a little short, silent no.
Look, I'm just keeping it real. I do think there's one team on the other side of the bracket that could play Duncanville tough, and we'll talk about it. So
excellent. By the way, Duncanville, you look at Duncanville, it's like, oh, they're only 9-0. They only played 9 games. Maybe it's because they know they're going to play 15, so they're not really worried about
play them. Like
exactly.
Finding games because nobody wants to play them because they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, they're calling up Hawaii and Wyoming and other states to get games while everybody else is trying to find one down the block. All right, go down to the lower half of that. We got Aldine Davis against Conroe, Klein Oak against Bridgeland. Boy, you look at this whole pod, it kind of looks really in favor of Bridgeland's to go 1, 2, 3 here to get to that spot.
Yeah, I think Bridgeland's going to be the team that comes out of this side. Conroe and Aldine Davis, this is a good matchup for program building. These are two teams that haven't had much success or playoffs. Cedric Hardiman's done a really good job there at Conroe, getting him in the playoffs back-to-back years. I think they had a great shot to win. Davis, led by Kelvin Chatham, the former Booker T. Washington coach, in his second year at the helm, gets Davis into the playoffs. So great accomplishment for them. And you got Klein Oak playing Bridgeland. Obviously, we've talked about Klein Oak and the turnaround they've had this year with freshman running back Micah Rhodes and a good team.
Yeah.
I just think Bridgeland's too complete of a team. They're playoff tested. They ran the table in that really tough 16-6A. And I think Bridgeland is the team that if anybody's going to give Duncanville a game, it's Bridgeland. I think they're the team that can do it. I mean, tough potential third-round matchup. Waxahachie's a very good team.
They're young, too, though. They got some youth on that squad as well.
Sophomore quarterback. Waxahachie in a year or two is going to be really fun to watch. North Forney, under first-year head coach Marcus Shavers, got in. They've got a really dynamic quarterback talent in Legend Bay, but they're very reliant on Legend Bay. And when you stop him, you can stop North Forney. And so I think Waxahachie can zero in. So I think we're going to look at Bridgeland Waxahachie in the third round. And I think Bridgeland slips past Waxahachie in that one and gets to let it all hang out against Duncanville in the regional final.
I tell you what, we're excited. I'm actually sending a camera to Klein Oak Bridgeland because we want to see Michael Rhodes one last time. He really showed out against Tomball Memorial. They got a nice 1-2 punch. It's just the rest of the squad. When Cortland Guillory's playing out there on offense too, it's hard to. You give them a little bit of hole and goodbye. Both of them are gone. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, you look at this thing, and if you don't see Bridgeland and Wax in that final there, it's going to be different. It'll be hard to believe, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. All right, let's move to Region 3 in Division 1. That's all Houston squads.
This is the fireworks factory right here, man. This
fireworks
is loaded.
Exactly. North Shore doing what they normally do, which is play Thursday games. I think all the big dogs play Thursday. I don't know why Duncanville does it, but I know DeSoto always seems to play on Thursday in the first round. North Shore, they just want to get that game completely done. Deer Park gave them a little run last year, but I don't know about this year. I don't think they have what it takes. I mean, North Shore's on another level here.
I watched the North Shore Summer Creek game, and that looked like vintage North Shore. After the first 5 minutes, Summer Creek led 10-0, and people are like, oh, what's wrong with North Shore? What's wrong with North Shore? North Shore just dominated the rest of the way. That was a virtuoso performance from them. In my opinion, North Shore's best performance in 2 years. That game last week exceeded anything they put out last year. That was impressive. Now, if North Shore's going to run the table, it's going to be a gauntlet. I mean, Deer Park in the first round is not a cakewalk. North Shore is a huge favorite, but they're not. We saw what happened last year. Deer Park gave them the game.
Exactly.
You're looking at a second-round game against Ridge Point, who's really, really strong.
Yes.
A third-round game against Katy, most likely. And then, oh, by the way, if you get past that, you're probably looking at Atascocita.
Atascocita
Second game against Atascocita this year. So, what a gauntlet North Shore's got to run just to get out of the region. I'm talking about state semifinals. So, North Shore's going to have to stay healthy and be on their A game every week. But I think they're the kind of team that can do it.
Exactly. I was gonna bring that up. That it's not an easy game against Deer Park, but considering what they have down the lane, it's going to be their easiest game for them. And I think that'll toughen them up if they get to that state final game. If they get there, it's because they went through absolute hell to get there.
The toughest road. That's the toughest road in the state in 6A division.
Toughest road in the state. You heard it.
Yeah.
And you look at the top half here. Katy is playing an L6 team. We already talked about that game. That's going to be a Katy win. How about Cy Falls doing what they had to do to win the district title there? Mm-hmm. And, they're getting Bel Air, so it should be a nice win for them. They're going to be heavily favored there.
Yeah, no.
Cy Falls, Katy, there's probably too much there for Katy.
Yeah,
because I don't know if Cy Falls got the offense for Katy.
I think Cy Falls defense will keep them in it, but I just don't know if they can score enough points. But I think their defense is going to keep them in a lot of games. Right. And we'll keep it competitive against Katy. I think Katy wins, but the Falls defense will keep them in it.
Well, there's a lot of games to look forward to. I can't wait to talk next week when we talk Ridgeport and North Shore and what you're going to say to me about what a Ridgeport has to do to get past it, because they both have. You looked at those highlights. One of the best highlights from the North Shore game last week was Caleb Bailey's last touchdown run, where he bowled over 4 or 5 guys. That's what Austin Carlisle does every guy staying weak. So it's going to be interesting to see 2 bruising quarterbacks that like to bowl guys over to get to the house. But let's look at the bottom half here. Cy-Fair Lamar, Peyto against Fulshire, Travis Pearland and Atascocita Dickinson. Tell me what you think about these matchups. Which one kind of sticks out to you the most?
Obviously, Atascocita Dickinson is going to be a ton of fun. I think Fulshire and Peyto could be good. I think Fulshire is the team that's going to come out of that top foursome there and be the team that challenges Atascocita in the third round. Really like what they can do with their running game. They've got playoff pedigree last year in 5A. Last couple of years making deep runs in 5A. So, Coach Caduti is going to have all the tricks in the bag when he gets to that point against Atascocita. Pearland's kind of quietly been a very good team. Yeah. I think they'll blow past Fort Bend Travis. I don't think they'll have any trouble there. But round 2 is going to be tough against most likely Atascocita or Dickinson if Dickinson pulls the upset. So I think we're looking at a Fulshire Atascocita semifinal with Atascocita getting to that regional final.
I personally feel like this is the best case scenario. If they can't win the district title, best case scenario is to get a match like Dickinson in the first round here, and that can show, and then possible Fulshire in the third, even Pearland in the second. I mean, if you're saying North Shore's got the toughest road, this is a pretty daggone hard road for Atascocita as well, and it will definitely toughen them up if they play North Shore a 4th time. I'm still waiting to be able to pick North Shore or Atascocita to beat North Shore. I took a little peek over there at Dave Campbell's. I see you went ahead and did that.
I think this might be time. So we'll see. I mean, they almost did it in the regular season. So we'll see if Atascocita can finally get over that hump. I mean, it's mental at this point. So it's just a matter of can Atascocita get it. But I'll tell you this: if North Shore plays like they did against Summer Creek, nobody's beating them. Not even Duncanville.
Right. You mentioned Fulshire. They haven't played a competitive game in 6-7 weeks.
Yeah.
Is that a factor, or is that a deal where they can?
Sure.
You mentioned tricks and trinkets that Cadetti might be putting together here. Maybe that's a good thing because they're blowing teams out. They can practice some stuff they might be able to use against other teams. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think Peyto is a good kind of entry into the playoffs. Peyto's a good team. They're not a great team, but I think they're kind of a team that can kind of get Fulshire. Okay, this team is good enough to punch back. We're gonna punch them. They're gonna punch us back. We're gonna be in a ball game for a little while. This is kind of a good kind of dip your toes in that water of playing really tough teams once again. So I think Peyto's not an elite team, but they're good enough to push Fulshire a little bit.
It looks like a good, as we say, Atascocita and North Shore got the gauntlet. This looks like a nice gradual upswing for Fulshire. A tough Peyto team. Cy-Fair or Lamar, either one of those teams got the pedigree. That's maybe a little step up. Then they got Atascocita before they have to play them. So maybe they're gradually getting into things as it ramps up. All right, Division II. We're talking DeSoto in the top half here. I can't see anybody beating them out of those 4. Willis and Spring, Trent Miller going up against his old team there. He's going to start crying before the game. I don't know if he has that kind of relationship with Spring, but we'll see. And then
he's been gone for a little while, so maybe not.
Yeah, a couple years now. Yeah. Then Tomball and Cy Springs, and I'm worried about Tomball because they usually struggle to get into the playoffs, but they didn't this year.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to have that hunger to them? And they're playing Cy Springs team that's they're kind of trending a little downward, but they're still good enough to be with Paris Melvin Jr. out there to give them a little run here.
Yeah, I watched Cy Springs and Cy Lakes Saturday because it was kind of for the last playoff. Paris Melvin put the cape on. He broke a long touchdown run, then intercepted a pass to seal the game. He's unbelievable. Springs just has been trending down, though. They haven't been playing real good football lately, so I like Tomball in that one. I think Willis is it's weird to say this, but I think Willis is a better team than they were last year.
Yeah, that's what Coach said, too, by the way.
You lose DJ Lagway, and granted, he's unbelievable, and he's going to do special things in college. He already has at times at Florida. Yeah. But I think at every other position, Willis is better. I think they're better on the offensive line. I think they're better on defense. And they skill a lot. You got Jermaine Bishop, who's the Texas High School football Travis Hunter. I mean, Willis is a team. I think DeSoto is still a team to beat, but I think Willis and DeSoto, if they play again this year, will be a more competitive game. It was competitive for a little while last year, and then DeSoto kind of hit another level. I think Willis can play him in a 4-quarter game this year. I don't know if they can beat him, but I think they can at least push DeSoto harder than they did last year.
That's what I was going to ask you. And would it help if somehow Trent Miller convinced them to do a coin flip and they won that flip, or is heading down to San Antonio again? Does that look like it's going to happen again? Or
haven't heard anything yet. It's still too early to tell. I mean, I know Coach Mathis at DeSoto loves playing in San Antonio, so we'll see. I don't know. Maybe Coach Miller will be like, "Nah, we have bad juju over there. Let's play somewhere else." So it's a couple of rounds away. So I barely started talking to guys about second round matchups. So we'll see what happens in round 3 if they play.
I get you.
They both got to win some football games. That DeSoto Wiley East game. Wiley East gave DeSoto.
They weren't scared of them, were they?
They gave a pretty good run last year, so that's not a cakewalk for DeSoto either.
And Wiley still got to get past Forney, who just barely made it in the playoffs, but they still have a lot of talent on that team. They just haven't really been healthy.
Nelson Peterson,
Kelvin Riggins.
They got some dudes, yeah.
Should be interesting. All right, let's move over to the second Division II, Region 2 matchups. This one, we may have a shot here in the bottom half. Although Longview's playing some hellified football.
Yeah.
And that's going to be probably the team to beat out of these 8. Mm-hmm. The Spring Westfield College Park matchup looks pretty sweet to me. Klein Collins, again, how can we be in Week 11 and still not know what's going on with that squad? And they're playing, that's wild to me, but they're playing Cy Woods, and I feel like that game could be close.
I think it could be too, especially depending if good Klein Collins shows up, they could beat Cy Woods. Bad Klein Collins shows up, they could lose by 5 touchdowns. I mean, it's just really a matter of what we see there. So, I think College Park's got a shot to upset Westfield here. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and put that on wax. I think College Park has a chance to knock off Westfield. So keep an eye on that game. But I think in this 8-pack here, I think Longview is the team to beat. If you haven't heard the name Boosie Washington,
Boosie,
he is.
Don't give him that ball in the jet sweep. If you give him on a jet sweep, you might as well go ahead and strike up the band.
He's a problem. So keep an eye. Longview is the team to beat there in this part of the bracket, I think.
And everybody was worried with Tatum gone. I said, what's going to happen? Well, you haven't seen Boosie. Exactly.
Bank on Boosie.
You'll be all right, man. Get that band ready when he touches it. So they can be playing something. All right, let's go to Region 3. Region 3, we got Stratford and Westside up top, Jordan and Foster. Both of those kind of look like Stratford and Jordan runaways at some point. Banville and Hightower. Summer Creek and Clear Falls. They look like clear winners in the first round to me. Your thoughts?
I think we've got 4 pretty clear favorites in the first round here. I think that Hightower Summer Creek second round game is going to be awesome. That was an unbelievable regional final that I was at last year there at Prison Stadium. It was an unbelievable football game. I like Katie Jordan a lot. I think Katie Jordan can make a little bit of a run here. Summer Creek, I'm not gonna, the North Shore loss. I think they're gonna put that behind them pretty quick. Still think Summer Creek's the team to beat here in this bracket.
I was gonna say in the favor of trying to see if we get any new teams in state title games this year, could it be Katie Jordan? We're gonna go to the next bracket, maybe talk Shadow Creek action as well. Is Katie Jordan a team that you think has a chance if they play it the best they can? Can
Yeah,
they
they,
make
they
it to
got
a
a
state
shot.
final game?
They gave Katie a really good game. Like this is not a Jordan team that's going to be big. The only thing I worry about with Jordan is the playoff pedigree at this point. They made the playoffs last year, got beat in the first round. They've got they'll be big favorites in this game, so they'll be able to get their playoff legs under them. I think they'll be favorites over Stratford in the second round for sure. So I think they can get their playoff legs under them before that third round game against Summer Creek or if in an upset Hightower.
Is Chad Gasper playing again, or is he out for the year?
I haven't seen.
I know
I've
he's
not
been
watched.
hurt.
Yeah, I haven't seen a Jordan game since the Katy game, and I don't think Gasper played against Katy. So
he's been hurt for a while. Hopefully he can come back. That'd be nice to see. All right, let's look at the other side. We got Memorial and Heights, Strake Jesuit and Tompkins, which I actually think would be a decent game. Just the way that running back for Strake Jesuit is playing, maybe they can at least keep it competitive. Shadow Creek shouldn't have much problem with Elkins, and then you got Kingwood and Clear Springs, which is probably the best of the bunch out of these four.
Yeah, I think the Kingwood Clear Springs game will be the most competitive game. I think Shadow Creek rolls. I like Tompkins over Straight personally.
Yeah, no, I do too. I just wonder if that thing's going to be close.
I think it could be close though, but I think, and then I think Heights should handle Memorial pretty handle. They handled them last year in the first round of the playoffs. I was at that game in the first round. They handled them pretty easily, and I would expect Heights to handle Memorial with relative ease in this one as well.
Then you look at all 8 of these teams. Who's going to give Shadow Creek the best run? Is anybody going to stay within a couple touchdowns? You think the second round game could be it?
I think Kingwood could. Yeah, I think Kingwood's battle tested and could. But I think Shadow Creek's. They can get past that game. They should cruise in the third round. They'll be big favorites in the third round for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, those are our 6A brackets. Let's move to 5A Division 1. We start in Region 3 because we don't have any Region 2 teams this year. Lufkin did win the title. They took out Galveston Ball by a couple points there, a couple touchdowns. They're taking on Milby. Crosby's got that College Station juggernaut to play. Port Arthur Memorial and Galena Park. That's probably a win for Port Arthur. And then Angleton and Pflugerville-Weiss. I want to hear your opinion on this one because Angleton's had a couple of tough games here the last 2 years.
Yeah, and Weiss is really good. They've got a receiver committed to Oregon, a couple studs on the defensive side of the ball, and they got a really good freshman quarterback who's played all year now. Weiss had a senior quarterback who was committed to Arkansas State, I believe, got hurt in the scrimmage, tore his knee up or got hurt in the scrimmage. They put a freshman in, and he's led them to an 8-2 record. The only 2 losses are to College Station and A&M Consolidated, both by less than a touchdown.
Wow.
So close games. I think Weiss goes to Angleton and beats Weiss. Goes to Angleton and beats Angleton. I think Weiss is the favorite in that one, despite having to go on the road. I think Port Arthur. So this is really not a good. This is not a good side of the bracket for the Houston area.
Not.
I don't think any of the Houston teams are winning here. I think Lufkin rolls Milby. I think College Station rolls Crosby. I think Port Arthur rolls Galena Park. And Angleton Weiss is the close game, but I like Weiss. So you're going to have no Houston teams in this side of the bracket.
No, that's a wrap for Houston. They're out of there.
Yeah. I think if you're looking for a team, I think Lufkin's my pick to get out, though. I think Lufkin's going to be in the regional final. I really like this Lufkin ball club.
Excellent. Yeah, if you say College Station's going to roll Crosby, and then we have Angleton just barely beating Crosby last week, maybe that game didn't mean all that much to them. That tells me all I need to know about Angleton. So it may be a tough road for them. All right, let's look at the other side here. LaPorte is one of the only 5A Division I teams at the beginning of the season I thought could go the furthest for them, but I don't even know how far the furthest is at this point in Division I. Barbers Hill and Sterling, Fridgman playing that juggernaut, and A&M Consolidated, which is probably going to end up being a loss. And then there's Galveston Ball there against Waltrip. Ball will probably win that one, but still, without Jonah, it's gonna be hard to predict him too far.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for Ball. If Ball was healthy, they might win. They might be the team that gets out if they had Jonah Williams. But not having Jonah Williams is a killer. I think they'll handle Waltrip, but second round against A&M Consolidated, probably a little bit too much to ask. I do think we'll have an all-Houston second-round matchup with LaPorte and Barbers Hill. Those two communities are very close to each other, not far away at all. So maybe they'll play in Baytown at Stallworth or something. I like LaPorte. But Austin Anderson is dynamic. They've got a receiver named Ed Small who's unbelievable. They got a D1 quarterback. Anderson could put up some points, but I don't think they can stop LaPorte's ground game. And I think Barbers Hill will handle Sterling with relative ease. So I think LaPorte can get to the third round, but I think A&M Consolidated will be a little bit too much for them. So I think in this region we'll have a non-Houston regional final with A&M Consolidated taking on Lufkin.
I got you. Well, I tell you what, LaPorte played Barbers Hill last year in the regular season in a bomb game. That thing was highlights galore. It was very
I
electrifying.
think it'll be a very similar matchup in the second round of the playoffs. I'm excited about that. That'll be a big atmosphere game too, because like I said, those two communities are very close to each other. A lot of those people know each other. It'll probably be on the east side of Houston somewhere, either in Baytown or Galena Park or CE King or something. It'll be a big crowd.
Excellent.
Might want to have a camera at that game.
Get a camera over there? I think we will. Especially to try to keep my pick alive in there with LaPorte from the preseason. But let's move to 5A Division II, where we actually have a couple regions to go through because 8-5A squeezes into Region 2, and we have a couple teams in there. We got Huntsville playing White House, Montgomery taking on Marshall. You've talked a lot about Huntsville from preseason all the way through here. Is a good Huntsville team a team that, and everybody sees that team there at the top. Everybody sees it. We're not blind. We see the three names. Is it a team that can take out a South Oak Cliff?
Yes.
If playing their best ball.
That's the key. Huntsville is a high ceiling, low floor team. When Huntsville is playing their best, there is not a team in the state in 5A Division II they cannot beat. But the consistency lacks, and they don't have the playoff pedigree. That's the thing about South Oak Cliff. Is I think Huntsville can go toe-to-toe with South Oak Cliff, but South Oak Cliff's got that playoff pedigree. They've been winning. They know how to win these kind of games. Huntsville, the one game where they really got into that battle where we're like, okay, let's see if Huntsville can pull it out, they lost to P&G and made a lot of self-inflicted mistakes that cost them in that game.
Right.
Can't do that against South Oak Cliff. But
where would that game be, by the way? Where, if you had to predict?
My guess would be in the Waco area somewhere.
Okay.
Is my thought.
Because they're gonna. I mean, that's the one thing different about South Oak Cliff than other years. They're going to venture out of Dallas.
Yeah.
I'm not sure their fans don't travel all that much, even when they're in Dallas, but except when they get to state. But they're going to have to make some move here, and I don't even know if they really play to their fans. They play for what's on their chest there. They play for Coach Todd. They play for that. Yeah. So, I mean, they like you said, they're big, bad South Oak Cliff, so Huntsville's going to have to play at their best here.
Yeah, they have to play their best to beat them. If Huntsville plays their best, they can beat them. Montgomery, solid team, but a really tough road trip playing Marshall in Marshall. It's another long trip into East Texas. Marshall's a good team. They're only lost in district play. I think Marshall's only lost twice this year. They lost to Longview, and they lost by 1 point to Texas High. So, really good team in Marshall. I think they're going to handle Montgomery. I actually think it's going to be Marshall and South Oak Cliff in the third round of the playoffs.
Do you?
Yeah.
All right. All that talk about Huntsville, and you got him out. God dang it. I can't get this guy to stick up for Houston. No, just kidding. All right, let's move to the other side where we have Nederland. We already talked about having to go all the way up to Texas High, and then there's P&G, defending champions, sitting down there against Hallsville. Man, I don't think they'll get a game until they hit Texas High in the third round, and that should be a doozy. Yeah,
it should be a doozy. Last time Texas High and P&G played 3 years ago, they played in Louisiana in Natchitoches. So wouldn't be surprised if they played in Louisiana again. I like Texas High to get out of this bottom. I love the Tigers' offense. I think they're really dynamic, explosive. I think we're going to get a Texas High South Oak Cliff regional final.
That'll be a good one too. If there's a different podcast that asked you where that game would be, you thought that game would be played, but since nobody down here in our Houston area cares about that, I'm not going to ask you that. But we are going to go. I told you not to tell me. All right, we're moving to my favorite, which is Richmond Randall. My favorite to go down to state. They're starting their little quest here against Belton. Texas City is our other team that made out there. They're playing Brenham, but they're looking at Liberty Hill coming. Even if they can get by Brenham, they're looking at Liberty Hill. Randall looks like they got a couple games where they can make it all the way to Liberty Hill, and boy, they are just rolling right now.
Yeah, Randall's rolling. They're going to be huge favorites over Belton this week, and they'll be huge favorites over Elgin or San Antonio Jefferson as well. Randall's going to get to the third round of the playoffs. I like Brenham over Texas City. They got that sophomore running back, Jacoby Dixon. I think Brenham actually is going to get out. Liberty Hill lost their Liberty Hill finished second in district. They lost their district finale to Bastrop. So Liberty Hill will take out San Antonio Sam Houston, but I think Liberty Hill Brenham will be a really good game. I actually like Brenham in that game, so I think it's going to be Brenham and Randall, with Randall advancing to the regional final.
Them Cubs going up against them Lions. It's going to be a fearsome game. And then our last Division II game, we got a really sweet first round matchup that up here in Waco with Fort Bend Marshall against Waco University, and then our Iowa Colony is taking on Ellison. Tell me about the chances of those two possibly meeting. And sorry about the misspell on Marshall there, but that's the way it goes sometimes. I can't spell sometimes. I ain't here for my spelling. I'm here for these 3 chins. Talk to me.
You didn't get hired for your spelling ability, right?
Exactly. I barely got hired for my professional abilities. But let's talk about our chances of seeing Iowa Colony meet Marshall. First of all, can Marshall get away from Waco? And then they got Bastrop.
That's a tough first-round draw going to Waco to play a really talented university. It's one of the games of the night in the state Thursday night. I'll be keeping my eye on this game Thursday night in Waco.
We'll have a guy there, by the way.
Yeah, I'll be keeping my eye on that game. I think Bastrop is a team. Like I said, they beat Liberty Hill last week. They're a team that nobody's talking about. That's going to be a real tough challenge. They're 9-1 on the year, playing great football. I think it's going to be Bastrop and Iowa Colony in the third round. And I like the Pioneers of Iowa Colony to get out, setting up a district rematch in the regional final with Randall. And I got Randall winning again, but a little bit closer. They beat Iowa Colony, I think, by 20 last time.
20, yeah, 30
yeah,
to 10.
I'll say Randall by 13, 33 to 20.
Iowa Colony, along with Kingwood, was one of your preseason picks here. So, along with Huntsville too, but you've just dissed Huntsville.
I think Huntsville's really good. I just think,
I'm just kidding.
But
Just messing with.
I get a few right every once in a while.
What is it? Blind squirrel in that nut. You found it. Perfect. I didn't make brackets for the 4A, but let's talk about some 4A playoffs action here. When you look at the teams from Houston and 4A, who do you think has a good reasonable run here out of all these squads? Because we talked a lot about. First, let's talk about the Houston ISD teams getting out. There's a couple teams that could get a win.
Yeah, I think Yates and Worthing both. I would say Worthing might be
Worthing's a big favorite. Yeah, I would think.
Yeah, I think Yates and I think they're playing Navasota if memory serves correctly.
They are, and Furr is playing Needville. So
yeah, I think Needville's probably a big favorite over Furr.
Okay.
But I think Yates and Navasota's a pick'em game.
Yep.
Wouldn't be surprised if Yates got out. I don't know if anyone in Region 3 can get past the second round though.
No,
those are start getting into playing those East Texas teams. I think we may get all East Texas regional semifinals there, but I do think in Region 4, the Bay City Black Cats. I think
how far can they go here?
I think they can. They're on the winning that district. They're on the bottom side of the bracket, and they get to avoid the other 2 real contenders in that region in Austin LBJ and San Antonio Davenport until the 4th round. And LBJ and Davenport are going to knock each other off before they get to Bay City. So I think Bay City can get to the regional final. I don't know if they can get past the regional final, but I think we'll see Bay City at least in the regional final.
Excellent. What about? Go ahead.
D2, yeah. So moving to 4A D2. I mean, obviously Belleville in Region 3 having won the region a year ago. Some struggles this year, but they've found a way they've kind of gotten their wheels back on as the season has progressed. So I think Belleville's the favorite there in Region 3.
What about Hampshire Finette?
I think Hampshire Finette's a team. I think if they were at full strength and they had Chris Augustine, their running back, he got hurt in the game I was at when I was down in Houston against Fort Bend Crawford. I think he's out for the year. Not having him they've really had to rely on their quarterback play, and it's kind of made them one-dimensional. I think Hampshire Finette, that potential third-round game against Madisonville could be very tough. But I think Hampshire Finette can get to the 4th round, but I don't know if they can get past Belleville. But watch out for Waco La Vega in Region 3 as well. They're playing their best football at the right time, and they've got some championship pedigree there at La Vega as well. But I like Belleville to get to the state semifinal round. I actually got Belleville in the state championship game.
Oh, wow. Okay, there we go. I'd like to see that again. They had a nice pregame speech there from Coach Rowe that still gets me jacked up. Anytime I need to get jacked up, I rewind that, and they pull out old sledgehammer. All coaches have some little skit there. Sometimes a poor Buffalo kid moved down here, and Joey McGuire threw out a chainsaw. I was like, all right, I don't know what's happening down here in Texas, but I don't need to get all cut up. I saw about this massacre that comes down here, and he's pulling out a chainsaw. I don't need to see that. Let's move on to 3A. Switching over to Dave Campbell's, I see you've already deserted Columbus. I mean, how could you? Because of the injury. That's our squad.
I'm concerned about the injuries of Columbus. I think if Columbus is healthy, they win the region. It's the same thing with Hitchcock. Columbus and Hitchcock basically took so much out of each other in that classic game
Yeah.
that it may have hurt both of their chances of going deep in the playoffs. They both have got key injuries. Hitchcock's
true.
injuries, I think, especially at the quarterback position, are probably more severe. I think there's a chance Columbus gets some guys back, but I don't know when. And Columbus round 2, Palestine Westwood is going to be an absolute war. Palestine Westwood's 10-0. They've got one of the best sophomore quarterbacks in the country in Kavian Bryant and a TCU committed running back in John Denman. That's a really tough matchup in the second round for Columbus. I think Columbus can get it done, but it's going to be tough. But my money is on Franklin. They played in 4 consecutive state championship games. Got to go with Franklin as the team to beat. I do think in Region 4, we got Edna, and I know Edna right on the southern edge of the viewing area, but
we still cover old Aunt Edna.
And Edna, I think they're gonna be the team that wins Region 4 and gets that semifinal game once again. We could have an all Houston matchup in the Columbus and Edna wouldn't shock me. So we could get all Houston in the state semifinals, which I know you would love.
I would love that. I would absolutely love it. Love it when old Aunt Edna does something special in there. What about Division 2? Because we just talked about the two that played in that thriller game. Which one of them do you think is the favorite, or could they play again in East Bernard and Tidehaven?
I think we could get an all Houston matchup, but there's some good teams in Region 4. Blanco, Poth. Poth is undefeated at 10-0. Blanco dropped down from Division 1 after playing in the regional final last year. They're going to be a tough out as well. And then you got over there in Lexington, there in the Bryan College Station area, that could be a tough route. But I could see Tidehaven and East Bernard going at it in a regional final once again. You got to give Tidehaven the champion's advantage. They won it last year in Regional 4, and they could easily get it done again. But East Bernard's going to be in the mix as well.
It's so rare because when your guy goes to Baylor, they lost like 60% of their offense. It seems like 50% of the offense, but they're still making it happen. They got the big win there. And you know what? I passed over on 4A. We didn't talk about Huffman-Hargrave. Do they have a shot? How far do you think they could go? Can they go 2-3 rounds or no? Because they did.
I think they're going to lose to Chapel Hill in the first round. Personally.
All right. Well, not even one round.
No. I think Chapel Hill is the favorite on the road.
It's hard
they got a running back. Chapel Hill. They got a running back committed to Texas, and their quarterback who's committed to Baylor has been out. I don't think he'll be back, but Chapel Hill's been playing the last couple of weeks. Been playing really good without him. So tough draw for Huffman, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's hard to mess with those East Texas small schools, man. They always come out with something. All right, where are you heading this week?
A little value shopping this week, Wizzy. I'm headed up to Amarillo Thursday and Friday. So watch
Amarillo by morning. Little George Strait.
Yeah, little 1 hour flight though. Some small school action. It's a 6-hour drive. I ain't driving 6 hours. Some small school action Thursday. I got doubleheader. I got a 4 o'clock and an 8 o'clock game. I got 4 o'clock. Olton taking on Sunray. Sunray is 10-0, one of the top teams in the state in 2A Division 1. They got a quarterback named Armando Lujan who is about to break some state records. He's been a 4-year starter, put up huge numbers. He's one of Greg Tepper's favorite players. Then the nightcap is Muleshoe, the Mules, taking on Canadian. I know a lot of y'all have heard of Canadian. They've been a state powerhouse, played in a few state championship games. Canadian taking on Muleshoe in the 8 o'clock game. They played in the regular season. Canadian beat him 74-67. But I don't think it'll be that.
Be there till midnight.
I don't think it'll be that close this time. Muleshoe, their starting running back and their top 3 receivers are all out for the year. They've just been crushed by injuries. So I don't know if they've got enough skill talent to hang with Canadian in this one. Then Friday, my early game Friday is Panhandle taking on New Home, which is just outside of Lubbock. Panhandle's 9-1.
Gotcha.
Their one loss is to Sunray. They're a very good 2A team as well. And then my nightcap over in Hereford, Texas, which is about just southwest of Amarillo. When you drive into Hereford, you can tell it's the beef capital of the world, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I got you.
I mean, the town is called Hereford. It's named after cows. The locals
keep the windows rolled up.
The locals say it smells like money. I say it smells like something else. But
money dragged through. Yeah. Never mind.
Abernathy's taking on West Texas High. So that'll be a good 2 7-3 teams. So that should be a good 2A, good first round game. And then I'll fly back Saturday morning and catch a game locally right down the street from me Saturday at 1 o'clock in Crowley as North Crowley 10-0 takes on Byron Nelson 8-2. So I think you'll probably have a camera out at that game.
Yeah, you may see a dude with 3 chins out there shooting on the sidelines.
So it should be a good first-round matchup with North Crowley and Byron Nelson. So Byron Nelson's got a receiver committed to Baylor. North Crowley's loaded. Their quarterbacks committed to North Texas. Their 2 running backs. SMU,
you talking about this guy?
Yeah, Chris Jimerson.
Okay.
They have 2 Division I running backs. One committed to UNLV. One committed to SMU. They got Quentin Gibson at receiver, who's got all kinds of offers now. Offensive line is loaded with prospects. One's committed to Missouri. They got a 5-star junior in John Turntine III. Defensively, they got a linebacker committed to Texas. They're just loaded. So North Crowley should win, but Byron Nelson's a tough first-round matchup. So.
See, you name off all those players. See, this all comes together, man. You named off all those players right after you talked about how you're worried about teams like Columbus with their injuries. This is why some of these teams load up on big-time players, because you can't make it to a state final unless you're healthy, and if you're not healthy, you better have backups that can play some ball. And it seems like teams like North Crowley, North Shore, Atascocita, they got some big money backups here that can save your bacon if you have an injury like that. Because there's even some 6A teams that have guys playing both ways. There's 5A teams that do. You lose that guy, and all of a sudden, man, you got to really shift. I mean, we just talked about Jonah Williams. So you had him going possibly to the state semifinals.
Now he's out, and I got to lose.
With him out, you got to reshift. It really changes your aspect of things. But that's high school football, man. It's not. We're not playing pickleball out there. We're playing some real stuff. So if you're going to get hurt, and you got to be able to deal with it. And I'm sure Coach Benight's not going to be whining about it. He's putting the best strategy together.
They're going to field the team, and you got to have depth, or you got to have a lot of luck. That's the thing. When trying to navigate a 16-game schedule, and so if you don't have much depth, you better hope the injury gods are lucky to you.
Absolutely. All right, Stepp, that was fun. We'll be going through it. We'll knock out half the teams in the state by next week, and we'll talk about it again. See what we got here in round 2, the area round.